get some reaction to this and some other stories today. I'm joined by the independent MP Zali Steggall, member for Warringah. You've been briefed on that Productivity Commission report by the Minister. What's your reaction to it?
Well, look, obviously we need to act on the recommendations. We know we've got a fiscal outlook which is not good. We need to make sure we are boosting productivity. The Treasurer's got his round table coming up, and we need to make sure the government actually has the courage to look beyond old policies and start putting new, more courageous ones on the table that actually transition the Australian economy for the future and the opportunities we have.
You've released a white paper today. You've done it with an economist, and this is part of your submission to the Productivity Roundtable.
Absolutely. With economist Emma Espeth, we're looking at a holistic approach to how can we, in a lower cost way than what the government is currently doing. At the moment, we're still seeing the government get behind policies where it's at a high cost to the public purse to sort of create that catalyst for change and transition. And we're still spending way too much on legacy and old policies like fossil fuel subsidies through the diesel fuel tax credit and other areas. So we are proposing a more nimble way of transitioning and boosting our productivity, looking at investment in small to medium businesses, innovation, young generations, their education, and making sure they have those opportunities.
Are you confident there'll be a sufficient level of ambition with the government in this new term?
Look, I guess the proof will be in the pudding, but there will be no excuses, right? With this massive majority, the Albanese government has an opportunity to make good on many of the things it stood for in opposition for many years. It then tinkered around the edges during the last parliament, looking at, I think, their numbers and saying they didn't quite have that full mandate. You have a whole generation of new MPs in this parliament that have come in on the premise of making a difference on important issues. I hope they have the courage of their conviction within the caucus party room. Maybe
the new generation shifts a bit of economic policy, maybe on electoral reform. I know that you and David Pocock this week have renewed your push on this. Can you just remind our viewers, why was it shelved? Because we were meant to see the truth in advertising laws passed before the last election, weren't we?
Absolutely, and the government tabled a bill themselves around electoral communication reform, but they shelved it as part of a deal with the coalition. Now, we are seeing the old guard of politics play out, though, still with this current government, because there's a tension at the moment, even just on committee memberships, where the government is opposing an independent member of parliament being on the Joint Standing Committee in electoral matters, which will review the 2025 election, and things like truth in political advertising laws, donation reforms, having fair and open democracy and elections get reviewed. So I'm a little bit cynical that at the moment the actions of the government do not say that they are genuinely respecting the will of the Australian people. A third of voters voted for non-major party on the primary vote. So whilst it's a big majority for Labor, on primary votes, there is a lot of Australians that are looking elsewhere than the major parties.
And that truth in advertising legislation, no doubt you will have, or your proposal with Pocock will get a lot of support across the crossbench. What about more broadly in the parliament? The coalition, the Greens, what are they saying to you?
The point is the public supports it, and I think ultimately that is the more important aspect. 89% of the Australian public supports that we bring political advertising into line with consumer advertising. We're not talking about introducing some extraordinary standard. We're just saying that political advertising should not be allowed to lie to the Australian public.
The Treasurer today said on the issue of Palestine that it's not a matter of if, but when Australia recognises the Palestinian state. What's your view? Should Australia fall into line with France, Canada, the UK?
Look, I've always supported that we have a two-state solution, and the Palestinian people do ultimately need recognition. I think the conditions are really important, that it cannot involve Hamas, and there absolutely needs to be, first and foremost, a release of hostages, right? We can't ignore that issue. I am concerned that this focus on the recognition of the Palestinian state is diverting attention away from the most urgent problem, which is access for the Palestinian people to humanitarian aid and medical supplies and food and water. So I guess my question with the urgency at the moment is the question is around getting that aid in. So I'm concerned that, I must say, I don't understand, will this discussion around recognition of Palestinian change the most urgent problem we have, which is getting aid into civilian people and getting a release of the hostages?
That's your top priority.
I think from a humanitarian point of view, it absolutely must be our priority.
Thank you for your time, Zali Steggall.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.